These are this afternoon's top stories. Premier Amri in London to attract investment for the Federation. Rains wreak havoc in St. Vincent, and undocumented migrants fear deportation under Trump. Good afternoon. Welcome to the ZIZ Midday Newscast. Today is Thursday, the 10th of November, 2016. I am Shaira Flanders. Nationally, Premier of Nevis, Honorable Vance Emery, is in London for a series of meetings geared towards promoting the Federation and attract investment for the country. Mr. Emery, who left Nevis for the meetings on Sunday, said the main discussions on investment took place on Wednesday, focusing on the St. Kitts and Nevis Citizenship by Investment or CBI program. He also used the opportunity to promote the St. Kitts and Nevis as a premier tourism destination. On Thursday, the Premier will participate in a round-table discussion along with other heads of Caribbean governments who have been invited to engage in the promotion of the CBI and other investment opportunities in their various countries. That event will be sponsored by Henley and Partners. Consultations on the draft of federal youth policy for St. Kitts and Nevis are ongoing and will soon be coming to a community near you. The policy was the topic of discussion on this week's edition of Working for You on ZIZ Radio. The process to engage with youth and other stakeholders is said to be an important part of the process to validate and update, where necessary, the contents of the draft document dated July 2013. A number of volunteers, including members of the CARICOM Youth Ambassadors Core Group, have collected the opinions of some young people, and the youth expert, Dwayne Eversley, has met with others, including residents at the New Horizons Juvenile Rehabilitation Center. Additionally, professional enumerators will canvass communities throughout St. Kitts and Nevis to record feedback that will be used to reshape the youth development document to be used by public and private sector agencies to streamline services and address the needs of young people. However, cooperation is key. Ms. Eversley said it is part of the region's culture to keep children and adolescents silent, generally ignoring their opinions. Youth are therefore encouraged to share openly and honestly in the various engagement sessions. The Department of Youth Empowerment is gearing up to host a bike run this weekend as one of the activities commemorating Youth Month. It has been announced that 2 new bicycles will be given away to registered participants at the island-wide Youth Bike Run. Acting Director in the Department of Youth Empowerment, Pierre Liebert, said the inaugural event is designed to engage young people and older persons in a friendly gathering.
It's a healthy exercise. You get to see the scenery, breathe in the rural and urban air of St. Kitts and Nevis, take in the sights, probably see a good opportunity for young persons to see areas that they probably never saw before, and to do it in a fun setting with their peers and people who support them.
Anyone can participate in the bike ride as it is an open activity. However, in order to be eligible to win the bikes, Mr. Liebert said they will have to register with the department on Church Street.
If you're interested, show up at the Connery football field Sunday, 6 a.m. and ride along with us. If you don't make it in time, we should be on the road for a little while, so you could drive real fast and catch us up. Or you could join in along the route from your different communities. And these are persons who have bicycles.
Individuals who do not own a bicycle but who wish to ride in the event can access one of 30 bikes that will be rented by the Department of Youth Empowerment for persons to use. Emergency assistance will be available for the riders along the route, which goes around the country eastwards via Keon. The bike ride will begin at 6 a.m. at the Connery playing field and will conclude at Port Zante. It will be followed by a stunt activity organized by the Department of Sports. Registration costs $35 and riders will also be presented with a t-shirt and a bottle of water. And on the regional scene, 1 death has been reported as a result of the heavy rain from a trough system that began affecting St. Vincent and the Grenadines on Tuesday. The downpours also caused the flooding and landslides that forced the closure of schools, government offices and some businesses today. While disaster officials had earlier reported no deaths or injuries, Eyewitness News confirmed shortly before noon that a boy died on the northern Grenadine island of Bikia after being swept away by floodwaters as he tried to clear a drain in Paget Farm in the south of the island. The National Emergency Management Organization, NEMO, had reported rising water levels in several communities, including Arnas Vale, where the E.T. Joshua Airport is located, a town east of the capital Kingstown, and the agriculture community of Vermont. Deputy Director of NEMO, Michelle Forbes, issued a statement advising residents in areas prone to flooding and landslides to exercise caution. She said the National Emergency Operations Center has been fully activated. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves went on to radio to urge the nation, particularly people living near rivers, and said a team from the Ministry of Works would be mobilized to begin cleanup operations once the situation allowed. In Guyana, bandits broke into the Eccles East Bank Demerara home of former Home Affairs Minister Clement Rohi. He says that several of his household staff are traumatized. Javon Vickery has that story.
The former Minister of Home Affairs, who on a number of occasions called out the current administration to address the crime situation, became a victim of the very same issues he condemns. According to police, 3 men who were caught on surveillance cameras leaving the premises invaded the home of Mr. Rohi and demanded cash and valuables from his house attendants. Mr. Rohi and wife were not home at the time of the robbery. Household staff told the police that they were beaten by the bandits after they refused to point them to the loot. Mr. Rohi said an undisclosed amount of cash and jewelry were taken by the bandits, whom he said ransacked his entire house.
I assaulted them for a brief while, mean a few kicks and so on, and then they began to ransack the house from top to bottom. Footage is being acquired now to establish whatever the police would be looking for, and an undisclosed sum of cash and jewelry.
Acting Commander of A Division Calvin Brutus explained that even though the men were identifiable, police have not yet arrested any of the suspects. Commander Brutus, however, told the media that the getaway car used by the 3 bandits was retrieved. The car was reportedly stolen last week.
He was not at home. There were just 2 maids, female maids there. They claim that when the persons entered the gate, they saw the movements and they came downstairs and opened the door, by which time the 3 males forced their way into the home, tied them up, demanded cash and other valuables. 1 purportedly had a handgun. They were unable to ascertain what was missing at the time. However, we received the information as to relation to the car number, PRR 514. As a result, we traced it to the register owner at Success. Upon checking there, we learned that the owner is overseas in England.
Javon Vickery, HGP Nightly News.
And on the international scene, there are fears that Donald Trump's anti-immigration election rhetoric could well become a reality under his presidency. Al Jazeera's Teresa Bo spoke to one woman who is living as an undocumented immigrant in Noggles, Arizona, and is afraid of losing her family. Here's more.
Border Patrol trucks patrolling the Mexico-U.S. border. Their main objective, to control the flow of drugs and illegal migrants. Hiding from them are people like Griselda. She's been living undocumented in the United States for 19 years. She says that now she's more afraid than ever.
Last night, my children were crying before going to sleep. They were telling me that now Trump is going to deport me, and they don't want to lose me. We don't know what is going to happen to us. Trump has called us murderers, rapists, but we're only here to find a better life.
Griselda is still absorbing the shock of Tuesday's presidential result. Her children and husband are U.S. citizens, but she cannot reside here because she entered the country illegally.
I see the results all around the country, and I see that nobody really cares what happens to us. Even in Florida, the Latinos voted for Trump. People from Cuba voted for him. We share the same experience of coming to the country. They came by sea, risking it all. We have been stabbed in the back by our own people.
Donald Trump has promised to deport millions of undocumented migrants. He has also promised jail time to those who try entering this country more than once. Mexico and the United States share a common border that divides not only two countries but entire families. It is very common to come here and see people trying to reach their relatives on the other side of the border. They're simply afraid of leaving the country because they fear of not being allowed back in.
Around 11 million people are undocumented in the United States. Immigration lawyers say they're not sure what is coming next.
That he will take that more humane approach and allow self-deportation. Because this other approach that was initially discussed is a very tough approach that is inhumane.
It's not just the increased risk of deportation that scares many here, but the new and powerful wall that Donald Trump said he's going to build. But Sergio Arellano says he's hoping Trump's promises will come true.
We need to secure our border. If it's not the wall, it's got to be, a fence, something to stop the bad element from coming into our nation and ruining the lives of our children.
Immigration has been a thorny issue in this election, but now that it's over, many here are worried that their biggest fears have already come true. Teresa Bo, Al Jazeera, Nogales, Arizona.
As the fighting escalates to recapture the Iraqi city of Mosul from the Islamic State of Iraq and the Levant ISIL group, so does the number of wounded persons. Tens of thousands of people have been forced from their homes because of the conflict, and hospitals in the region are struggling to treat the injured. Al Jazeera's Charles Stratford reports from Iraq.
14-year-old Tahir and his family were trying to escape a town near Mosul occupied by ISIL fighters when the sniper's bullet hit. His father and brother picked him up and ran to Iraqi soldiers close by.
I was shaking inside. He's more precious than my own life. I have 4 children, 2 girls and 2 boys. They're the most precious people in my life. When I saw my son was hit, my life stood still.
An International Red Cross surgeon operated on Tahir. He says the lack of available medical equipment at the hospital made the procedure difficult.
But the entry is from the abdomen, coming here, going out here. So we call it a thoraco-abdominal injury. So it perforated the small intestine and one portion of the large intestine. So we have to use our hands rather than using the proper instruments.
The International Red Cross says this is the only referral hospital in Nineveh province not under ISIL control. The organisation has helped refurbish and modernise this operating theatre. Another 2 are being built. But the hospital lacks specialised medical staff and equipment to treat the many more wounded people expected here. Ambulances arrive in the late afternoon. The emergency room is full. Many medical staff have family in Mosul and insist we hide their faces. And it's not just wounded civilians they are treating here. Even before the battle for Mosul started, this hospital was having to serve a population of around 300,000 people, at least 50,000 of whom are internally displaced. Now, as the fighting escalates, the hospital is having to treat an increasing number of civilians and men like these, Iraqi soldiers. The Iraqi military aren't publicising the numbers of casualties. Since the battle to defeat ISIL in Mosul started last month, more soldiers are being brought to this hospital every day. Mohammed Mahmoud is being treated for a hand wound. The Iraqi soldier says the suicide bomber in a car appeared suddenly and could not be stopped.
We
were liberating the area of Sada Bawija. A suicide car bomber appeared driving towards us. We tried to hit using rocket-propelled grenades, but couldn't. It exploded. I and another soldier were injured. 1 other died.
As the battle for Mosul continues, hospitals such as these are preparing to treat many more civilians and soldiers. Charles Stratford, Al Jazeera, Sheikh Khan, Northern Iraq.
And now for the weather. Current conditions are partly cloudy with a gentle breeze from the east at 8 miles per hour. Seas are moderate to locally rough with waves between 5 and 7 feet. An advisory remains in effect for small craft operators and sea bathers. Today will be partly with a chance of few showers. Tonight is expected to be fair. That brings us to the end of the ZIZ Midday Newscast. Join us this evening for these stories and more in detail. Thank you so much for tuning in. I am Shaira Flanders. Have a good one.